What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Yejide, and if it's your first time stopping by, you are most definitely welcome. So on today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys how I made this beautiful mini skirt with a drape at the front. So if you're interested in this, let's get right into the video. So guys, this is the material I'll be using. This is 1.5 yards of crepe material. So guys, I'll just go ahead now to open this up. So to know the amount of wideness to place on fold, just go ahead to divide your hip circumference by 4. So mine will give me 10 inches and I'll just add 2 inches to that. So on fold I have 12 inches so as to avoid wastage of material. So guys, to get my starting point, I'm first going to subtract 1.5 inches away from whatever I'm going to be taking. This 1.5 inches is going to be for my band. So starting from 1.5 inches here, I'm going to measure 8 inches, which is my hip line. Then I'll go ahead to mark the skirt length I want, which is 17 inches. So after this, I'll add 2 inches to this. These 2 inches will serve as my seam allowance. So this is 19. So now guys, the next thing to do is just to extend these lines I've marked out. So now guys, the next thing, I'll come to this waistline here and take my waist measurement. The waist is 28 divided by 4. So I'm going to mark 7 inches and add just 1 inch as seam allowance. I'm not going to be adding any dart to this front part. It is not necessary. Then I'll come to the hip line and take my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll just add 1 inch seam allowance to that. Then on my new length, this is the full length of this skirt, I'm just going to take my hip circumference divided by 4, which is 10 inches. So now guys, the next thing is to connect these marks I've made like so. I'm going to first connect this new line to the seam allowance I took in a straight manner like so. Then I'm going to connect my waist measurement to my hip measurement. Then from here, I'm going to connect this back to the new length or the full length of the skirt. So now guys, I'm done with the front pattern. I'm just going to cut this out. So guys, I'm not going to be using this to cut out the back because the back is going to be having that. So now guys, for the back, you also want to divide your hips into 4 and mark that, then add about 3 inches to that because the back is going to have zipper allowance. So that means on fold I measured out 13 inches. So now guys, the first thing you're going to do, from the center of your material, you're going to measure 1 inch all through. This 1 inch is going to be for your zipper allowance. So I'll measure 1 inch to the full length of this skirt. And now guys, I'm going to take the horizontal measurement starting from my 1.5 inches away, which is for band. I'm going to take my hip line, which is 8, and also the full length of this skirt, which is 17 inches. And I also went ahead to add my seam allowance, which is 2 inches. So now guys, on the waist measurement, I'm going to take my waist measurement divided by 4. I'm going to add 1 inch for that and also 1 inch for seam allowance. Then on my hip line, I'm going to take my hip circumference divided by 4, which is 10, and I'm going to add 1 inch for seam allowance. Then on my new length, just like I did for the front, I'm just going to take my hip circumference divided by 4. On this new length guys, I am going to measure 10 inches, as you can see. So now guys, the next thing is to connect these 3 dots together. This is very simple. It's just like how you draft your pencil skirt. So now guys, after I connect these 3 points together like so, I am basically done with the back pattern. I'm just going to cut this out. Then I'll go ahead to split these zipper parts. I'll split this part into 2 like so. So now guys, I'm just going to notch this zipper area also. So now the next thing is to take my dart. So from the zipper allowance that I have, I'm going to measure my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 7 divided by 2, which is 3.5. So on this from my zipper part guys, I measured 3.5 here. So I'll just notch that area. So now the dart length is going to be 3 inches, which you can see that is what I just marked here. So now guys, I'll take this to the machine and sew this down by half of an inch on both sides. So now guys, you can see I've taken my dart and I've also sewn this area between the zipper and the slit. So I left about 8 inches away for my zipper allowance and I sew from there down, and I didn't finish sewing to the end of this skirt. As you can see, I left a little space for slits. So now guys, I'll just go ahead to press this open. I'll press my seams open. So let's take this to the ironing table. Guys, you can see I've gone ahead now to press this open. This is the back piece, so this is what it looks like. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do now is to place my front material on this so I can hold my measurement and sew down the sides. So now guys, remember I left 1 inch for my seam allowance, so I'll just go ahead now to take my measurement. You can see my waist divided by 2, that is 14 inches, and the remaining allowance I'm going to split it at both ends of this skirt. That means at both ends of this skirt I'm taking 1 inch. The same thing for my hip circumference, which is 40 divided by 2. So I just went ahead now to measure 20 inches. So I splitted from this first side. There's 1 inch seam allowance. I'm connecting that to my waist measurement. The other side also 1 inch seam allowance. I'm also connecting it to my waist measurement. So guys, I'll just connect this straight down like so, and I'll go ahead now to sew the sides. So guys, you can see this is what it looks like. I'm gonna add to sew the sides. I'm just going to turn this over, and you can see it's looking a bit swollen. I'll just take this now to the pressing table to iron the sides out. So now guys, I'm done with the skirt. For the band, for the length of my band, guys, the length of the band is your waist circumference plus 3 inches. So you can see here I have 31 inches for my band, and for the wideness of the band I have 2 inches on fold. Remember we left 1.5 inch as the band allowance. So guys, if you open this up, you can see I have 4 inches. So if you place it back like so, you have 2 inches. So by the time I attach this to my skirt, you know, I'm going to use half of an inch as sewing allowance, and at the end of the day I'm going to have 1.5 inch as band. So now guys, placing the band on the right side of the skirt, you can see I'm going to place this on the right side of the skirt, and I'm just going to sew this round the waist of this skirt like so, and I'm going to be sewing this down by half of an inch. So let's go ahead to do that now. So here it is guys, I've gone ahead to fix my band. The next thing now is to fix my zip. So guys, you can see this is what the band looks like. If you place it well, this is what it's going to look like. So now guys, the next thing now is to fix my zip to this zip allowance. So I'll just take this to the sewing machine to do that now. So guys, you can see the zipper space looking very pretty. So I'm done with the skirt. I'm just going to place this aside. So now guys, for the drape, I've gone ahead to cut out this big piece of material. So now guys, for the drape wideness, what you're going to do is you take your skirt length. So now measuring my skirt length, remember my skirt length is 17 inches. I'm going to multiply this by 3. Whatever I get, that is going to be the wideness of the material I'm going to be cutting for my drape. So now guys, 17 times 3 gave me about 51 inches. So I just added 9 inches to that. So guys, the wideness of this drape is 60 inches. You can go ahead to use times 3 of the length of your skirt, but I just went ahead to use 60 inches. And for the length, I used the length of the skirt, but I subtracted 1 because I don't want the drape touching the hem of my skirt. So guys, the length of this drape is 16 inches. So what I did was just to hem all the edges of this material. You can see I've gone ahead to sew this down. I folded this twice and sew this down with my sewing machine. So now guys, the next thing now is to place the drape on the front part of the skirt. So what you're going to do is you come to your waist and take the middle of the waist. You can see the middle of my waist here is 7. I'll just go ahead to chalk this down. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is also to get the middle of my drape. So I'll just get the middle of my drape, and I'm going to also chalk the middle down like so. Then guys, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place the middle, you can see the chalked middle, I'm going to place them on each other like so. So now guys, I want my drape to start from just above my hip line. So guys, I'm going to measure 4 inches from the waist down, 4 inches on both sides. So that is where the drape pleat is going to start from. So guys, I'm just going to freestyle this and arrange my pleats in a manner that I like. So you can see the chalk area, the chalked middle facing each other like so, and the sides of this drape also starting from that 4 inches I measured by both sides. So now guys, the next thing I'm just going to do now is just to pleat this drape. I'm going to pleat this material at both sides while still making sure that middle parts, they are facing each other like so. So how you can achieve this is by making use of an office pin to hold down the drape to the front part of the skirt. So now guys, I'm just going to arrange my pleats on one side of this drape. I'm going to do this first to see how it looks like. So guys, you can go ahead to do this on a body form or mannequin if you have one. It's going to make your work a lot easier, and if you don't have one, you can also arrange this very well on your sewing table. So I'll just go ahead to pleat this on the side of my skirt, and I'm going to pin the pleat down. So guys, when I'm pinning this pleat down, you want to pleat this to just the front part of the skirt. You don't want to pin this also to the back of the skirt, because you are going to be sewing on this later, and you don't want to sew to the back of the skirt. So now guys, to make sure that both sides have the same pleats and they also have the same length, you know, one side is not shorter than each other, I'm going to measure the length of my pleat. I'm going to show you what I mean in a bit. So guys, I'm just going to go ahead now to pleat the other part. You can see I'm just freestyling this is a drape, so there's no one way to do this. Actually, you just make sure you pleat it the way you like, pleat it correctly, and make sure that the pleat lengths on both sides are the same. So now you can see, this is what I mean by pleat length. You can see the pleat length on this side is 6, and this other side also, it is also 6. If what you've pleated is shorter or longer than the other area, you can loosen up, you can remove the pins and do it again. Just make sure the pleat lengths are the same thing, so that one side won't be shorter or longer than the other. I hope you understand what I mean here. So you can see guys, I'm done pleating. So I'll just take this to the sewing machine now and run a straight stitch, you can see, on just the front part. Don't attach this to the back part. So I'll do the same thing to the other side, just a straight stitch to hold down my pleat. So guys, you can see this is what it looks like. I've gone ahead to do this. You can see it's looking very neat. So guys, we are basically done with this skirt. The next thing I'm just going to do now is to fold the edges of this skirt twice and sew this down. So guys, this is what the skirt looks like. I really love the outcome of this skirt because it is very simple to achieve. So guys, don't forget to give this video a big fat thick thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I'm going to see you all in my next video. So guys, before I go, if this my top is entering your eyes, guys, check my last tutorial. I made this beautiful corset in my last tutorial so that you can have a complete set for yourself when you make this skirt, and you can see that this color combo, it is really giving. So guys, don't forget to like this video and also subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much. Bye.